There's a quiet tension that runs through modern life, the endless effort to hold things still. You make plans, set goals, chase stability, hoping that certainty might finally bring peace. But no matter how carefully you arrange the pieces, life keeps shifting. A sudden change, an unexpected ending, a plan undone, and the illusion collapses. Alan Watts often said that our anxiety doesn't come from uncertainty itself, but from the desperate need to make life predictable. Because the unknown was never the enemy, it was always the teacher. In this episode, we'll explore how to face the unpredictable with grace, how to let go without falling apart, and how to live wisely in a world that refuses to stay still. And it all begins with the illusion of control. Life often begins as a quiet negotiation with control. You make plans, set goals, try to keep things steady, as if by perfect arrangement you might outwit the chaos. But life, in its quiet defiance, keeps slipping through the cracks. You plan for calm, and the storm arrives. You seek security, and something shifts beneath your feet. And so begins the endless dance between order and uncertainty. Alan Watts once said that life is not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be lived. Yet most of us live as if it were a puzzle, one that, if solved correctly, might finally deliver peace. We chase predictability as though it were salvation, while life keeps whispering that it was never meant to be predictable at all. The paradox is cruelly elegant. The tighter your grip, the faster everything escapes it. Watts often compared control to trying to smooth the surface of the ocean. You can press your hands against the water, but the ripples will always return. You cannot still the waves, only learn to surf them. To resist the natural motion of life is to wage war against the very rhythm that sustains it. Yet modern culture glorifies control, career plans, 5-year goals, productivity routines. We are taught that mastery means prediction, and prediction means safety. But the human brain did not evolve to dominate uncertainty. It evolved to dance with it. Cognitive scientists call this adaptability cognitive flexibility, the mind's ability to shift, to reorient, to update its understanding as the world changes. In truth, this is the essence of intelligence. Not the power to command the future, but the grace to respond when it refuses to obey. Psychologists speak of intolerance of uncertainty as one of the root causes of anxiety. When the unknown looms, the mind begins to overplan, to rehearse possible futures, to tighten its hold in a futile attempt to feel safe. But safety built on control is an illusion. It demands that the world conform to your design. And the world, in its quiet wisdom, never does. What if the unknown was not your enemy but your teacher? What if your struggle to predict tomorrow was the very thing that blinded you to what is unfolding today? There is a strange beauty in watching plans collapse, in realizing that you are still breathing, still carried by something deeper than your agenda. Watts would say that this is not failure, but participation. The moment you stop dictating to life and begin listening to it. The real intelligence lies not in resisting the flow, but in trusting it enough to learn its rhythm. You do not need to know where the current will lead to know that it moves with purpose. And perhaps that is where true maturity begins, in learning that control was never the goal. The goal was presence, to be awake, responsive, alive to each unpredictable moment. For as Watts would remind us, safety does not come from certainty, but from your capacity to adapt when certainty disappears. And so, when the waves rise and your plans dissolve back into the sea, a quieter question emerges, not of how to control life, but how to release your grip without drifting away. This, Alan Watts called the art of letting go without being reckless. If this content is resonating with you, consider subscribing. I make videos that help you see the world and yourself more clearly. Thank you. Letting go, a phrase often mistaken for passivity, as if to release something is to lose it. But Alan Watts saw letting go not as an act of surrendering life, but of surrendering the illusion that you could ever own it. To have faith, he said, is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you'll sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float. In those words lies a paradox. To stay afloat, you must stop struggling. To stay alive to the moment, you must cease trying to control it. The wisdom in letting go is not recklessness. It is not about withdrawing from effort or silencing desire. It is about moving with the current instead of against it. To let go intelligently is to act without attachment, to give your energy fully to something while knowing that its outcome does not belong to you. There's a quiet dignity in that. The mind resists it because it has been conditioned to equate control with safety. But safety, in the truest sense, is born of adaptability. The same adaptability that allows a tree to bend in the wind instead of breaking under it. Modern psychology mirrors this truth. In acceptance and commitment therapy, practitioners speak of cognitive diffusion, the ability to observe one's thoughts without becoming entangled in them. This practice teaches that you can engage deeply with life while still allowing uncertainty to exist. Neuroscience even shows that moments of surrender lower activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm system for threat, shifting you into a state of relaxed awareness. Paradoxically, it is in letting go that the mind regains its clarity. You might recognize this rhythm in your own quiet experiences, when you stopped chasing approval and suddenly found connection, or when you loosened your plans and stumbled upon an opportunity that fit you better than anything you could have designed. Life often unfolds most beautifully when it is no longer being forced into shape. It is not resignation, it is participation at its highest form, to cooperate with reality instead of demanding that it conform. Watts often spoke of this as the harmony between effort and ease, to act but not cling, to care but not obsess. It is a kind of spiritual dexterity, the same intelligence seen in nature's effortless balance, the tides, the seasons, the cycles of bloom and decay. To live well, he suggested, is to align yourself with that rhythm, to trust that even endings have their own hidden grace, and yet there remains a deeper resistance within, the quiet voice that trembles at the edge of surrender. It is not logic that fears the unknown, it is identity. The ego does not wish to float, it wishes to steer. It clings not to safety, but to the story of who it thinks it must be. And so the question lingers, soft but insistent. What is it that truly fears the unknown? The answer lies beyond the surface of self, in the quiet domain of the ego's fear of the unknown. The ego, that fragile architecture of identity we spend our lives constructing, it names us, defines us, shields us from chaos. It whispers, "This is who you are." But beneath its certainty lies a quiet terror, the fear that without its boundaries we might dissolve into something vast and unknowable. Alan Watts saw the ego not as an enemy, but as a useful fiction, a social tool, a temporary role we play in the grand theater of existence. The tragedy begins when the actor forgets the mask is not his face. Watts once said, "You are not a stranger to the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself." The ego resists this truth because it cannot comprehend it. It thrives on separation, on the illusion that there is a you here and a world out there. The unknown threatens this illusion, for it blurs the line between the observer and the observed. When faced with uncertainty, the ego contracts. It clings to labels, to possessions, to familiar pain even, because pain at least reaffirms existence. Anything is safer than disappearing into the vast, unnameable flow of being. Neuroscience offers a subtle echo of this ancient insight. In moments of awe, meditation, or profound creativity, the brain's default mode network, the region tied to self-referential thinking, quiets. The chatter of identity softens. People describe these experiences as losing themselves, yet paradoxically, they feel more alive than ever. What fades is not consciousness, but the boundary that divides it. The fear of the unknown dissolves into the wonder of belonging to something immeasurable. This is why change feels so unnerving. To the ego, every transformation is a kind of death. A job lost, a relationship ending, a dream shifting. These moments are not just circumstantial losses. They are symbolic. They unsettle the story the ego tells about who we are. But in each unraveling lies the chance for a deeper truth to surface, one that doesn't depend on stability, but on awareness. The unknown is not chaos. It is potential waiting to take form. Watts often spoke of the universe as a dance, spontaneous, ever-emerging, beyond all attempts at prediction. The ego fears this dance because it cannot lead it. But life was never a performance to master, it was a rhythm to join. True freedom begins the moment you stop guarding your edges and allow yourself to dissolve into the movement itself. And perhaps this is what he meant when he said that life only reveals its meaning when you stop demanding it to make sense. For the unknown, once feared, becomes the very ground of creation. And when you finally stop resisting its flow, you begin to notice something profound, that existence itself speaks in contradictions, that wisdom does not lie in choosing sides, but in moving with the paradox. This gentle realization leads us to the next unfolding truth, the art not of escaping life's contradictions, but of dancing within them, flowing with life's paradoxes. Life, as Alan Watts so often reminded us, is not a problem to be solved, but a paradox to be lived. It bends beyond logic, flowing between opposites, joy and sorrow, creation and decay, chaos and order. We are taught to seek permanence, yet everything alive is in motion. The more we cling to what is fixed, the more lifeless it becomes. Watts once said, "The more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless." It is the transient, the fleeting, the uncertain that gives life its color. The human mind, however, loves boundaries. It wants to draw clean lines between right and wrong, success and failure, gain and loss, as though truth could ever be confined to a single side. But existence is not built on binaries. It is built on tension, the silent dialogue between light and shadow, form and emptiness. Watt saw wisdom not in resolving this tension, but in dancing with it. To laugh at the cosmic joke, to see that the same forces that destroy also create, that endings are disguised beginnings. In this, he was echoing what modern psychology calls dialectical thinking, the ability to hold two opposing truths at once. People who cultivate this quality tend to suffer less from inner conflict. They can say, "I am afraid, and yet I am curious." They can lose something precious and still sense that life somehow continues to give. It is not denial. It is balance, a quiet intelligence that allows the heart to stretch wide enough for contradiction. Neuroscientists might say the brain's hemispheres mirror this dance, the left seeking structure, the right bathing in ambiguity, each essential to meaning. Creativity, empathy, even love itself arise from this interplay. We become rigid when we demand certainty. We become alive when we allow duality to coexist. To live fully is to stop asking life to choose between opposites, to recognize that joy is stitched from sorrow, that meaning is born from impermanence. Watts once described enlightenment not as escape, but as intimacy, the capacity to be at ease with what is, to see the storm without resistance, to meet both laughter and loss with the same quiet reverence. There is no final mastery of life, only participation, a willingness to be moved, to be shaped, to be changed. The wise do not conquer uncertainty. They court it, for to live without paradox would be to live without depth. And perhaps this is where reflection meets responsibility, to live with open eyes, to think deeply, to share these insights not as doctrine, but as conversation. Every word, every question, every moment of resonance ripples outward in ways unseen. So if this meditation stirred something in the silent corners of your own thought, let it continue its journey. Leave your reflections below. They might echo in someone else's awakening. And if these ideas spoke to you, let them travel further. A like, a share, a small gesture of connection. For understanding, after all, is not owned. It is shared, the way light moves from one window to another. In the end, to embrace the unknown intelligently is to live as the ocean does, unafraid of depth, unashamed of change, and quietly aware that every wave, no matter how brief, belongs to something infinite.